Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, coming to you on this Thursday, July 31st. RIFC remain on top of the Jägermeister group to advance into the quarterfinals despite a draw against Hartford Athletic that had the fans feeling more like this was a complete loss. How do draws work? We're going to unpack all of that and so much more, and we're going to discuss where this team goes from here and what's in store for the Amber and Blue ahead of their game away to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds this weekend. To do that and so much more is the one and only co-host with the most. He's a little sick tonight. Bear with him, but Jason Carey, how is it going, my friend?
All things considered, I'm hanging in there, like you preface. I'm getting over the sickness. Unfortunately, he's been canceled, right? So we can't bring that up. So I'm all hyped up on some Advil and a bunch of electrolytes. So
hey, this is a drug-free zone, buddy. Okay.
I don't think electrolytes. Brondo is what the plants crave.
Of course.
It's vegan, right?
Is Gatorade vegan?
Probably.
The things you learn.
It's Brondo.
Well, here we are. I'm glad that you didn't start this off with an RIP. I mean, there was a lot last week I was expecting you to hit us with, but we did have that midnight show that we recorded, so we couldn't get to the legend.
How many episodes of podcasts have you recorded in the last 7 days? 5?
This is the fifth. Yeah, this is the fifth. So we've got
been on some of those.
We've got 2 of the Raising Anchors. We did the Howlers social or the Howlers soccer social. At the Guild, we recorded for the first time ever on site there, despite lots of fans asking us if we could ever do that. So now we kind of learned some tips and tricks on how to do that. So maybe something like that could come in the future. And then we had the Blazing Musket round table that we do every month. You and I usually rotate that. And then, of course, Ame Mabika's interview a little earlier this week. All great things. You should go out and listen to all of them and give all of those reporters and content creators your love and your follow. And just help us with the stream. We never ask you guys to buy stuff, but clicking in, listening for 30 seconds and going, hey, I did my part, giving them positive ratings. That's where the magic happens. And speaking of magic, we got to get into this. We got an action-packed show. Some people didn't want this show to happen, Jason, and it's not because they don't like you. It's because they don't really want to keep bringing up this negative taste in their mouths. So we're going to get ahead into that in a little bit, but let's start with the news that we have around the league.
Yeah, so we've got a food craft festival coming. So Centerville Bank Stadium announced that the Food Truck and Craft Beverage Festival will be held at the stadium on Saturday, August 23rd from 12 to 6 p.m. and will include options from over 20 fan favorite food trucks with local and regional craft brewers, cideries, and beverage artisans on pair with a culinary experience.
Is a beverage artisan just a fancy word for bartender at this point?
I don't know. Is that just Yacht Club sodas?
I'm taking you on a beverage journey, Jason.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about this though is it's not the same day as the away game to Hartford. So, I don't know how many maybe RAFC fans will be going unless they maybe plan not to go away. And you could, the game's at 7. You could probably roll down to the Guild afterwards and watch the game. So
why not have it at the stadium? Why not just have the after party? Keep it to
they're already there.
You went to the Inter Miami Leagues Cup, or not Leagues Cup, the ICC one or whatever,
the Club World Cup.
That's the world. Yeah, you went to that. Could they emulate that experience? Do you think people would come and show up for that match?
It's hard to say. I don't know because that was different because it was messy. It was midday. Could you translate this to, at that point with some of they would probably want to sell their own concessions, but at that point you already have the food trucks there, right?
That or they've closed it down and it's really just down to drinks and maybe the pretzel guy, right? That's enough for me. We're going to the away game. We will absolutely be in Hartford for that. We've heard lots of fans are going to that. By the way, little admin note here for a second. For the season ticket members and the Defiant 1636 members, that link is still available to get your bus and your ticket package. If you don't want the bus and you just want to get your game day ticket so that you're in the away support, that's also there. I've heard that that window is closing so that they're going to open it up eventually to general sale. I think they're already kind of offering it to people that are just interested, but depending on how many buses or bus is filled, that's going to be the next step. So if you've been on the fence and you don't know, you want to start thinking about pulling the trigger on getting that into to that Hartford away match. But hey, look, it could be fun if you don't want to go and you want to stay here. Maybe Centerville Bank will open up for it. Maybe they won't, but exciting times nevertheless. Speaking of Centerville Bank Stadium, jumping straight into this Governor's Cup. So earlier this week, Brown University and the University of Rhode Island shared the news that the 43rd annual Governor's Cup will be held at the new Centerville Bank Stadium on Friday, October 3rd at 7 p.m. The game will mark the first ever football game in the stadium's history. Tickets are going to go on sale sometime in August. Jason, I know you're not from either one of these schools, but this is a big deal when it comes to some of the interstate rivalries that exist. You know, like there's one camp or the other, and then for fans that didn't go to either one, they've made their bed, so to speak, in one school or the other, and it's carried through generations here. I'm going to ask you live. We're either going to make some fans or make some villains out of this. Which you just get to pick right now. I'll let you pick one because I don't have table stakes in this either. So whichever one you pick, I'm going the opposite.
You know what? Good friend, Chris works at Brown, so just gonna go with that.
Okay. All right. So we'll have to figure out some sort of table stakes, some sort of gentleman's agreement later in that Governor's Cup. Hopefully, this is the first of many. I mean, we saw last year, the Army-Navy game and the importance of that. We've seen now March Madness here in Providence. So like, you know, the Governor's Cup is a very big deal for the collegiate football system here. Maybe this is something really exciting that we could see as a permanent, like a neutral ground and a place where, you know, you can bring a bunch of fans and have a great time. So exciting to see that ahead for the regular football.
Some good old gridiron, you know,
some good old Dwayne the Rock Johnson gridiron football. But there was some other news earlier this week in our football up a little bit further north in a little state we call Vermont.
Yeah. So Vermont Green. They had to go to penalties, but
I wish we could know what that was like.
But they were able to best. The name escapes me, and you know I was sick. I forgot to write the name of the team down.
The point is they won.
The point is they won, and they are hosting the finals this weekend. Correct?
Against Ballard. Yeah,
Ballard. And they sold out again in like 5 minutes.
Listen, Vermont Green is showing that winners can exist in the sport of football here in New England. It's exciting to watch their journey. They've already qualified. We talked to our good friend Mike, who is a part of the Blazing Musket and United in Green up north, talked about how they already have that U.S. Open Cup qualification now, and now they're just playing for pride. They're playing for can they be the ultimate within USL2, the championship here now on the line. Excited to see what they can do. This team, they look like fun. I remember when it used to be fun to watch football in New England, and people really seem like they're having a great time with it. So all of our love, all of our support up to Vermont Green this weekend. If you're going, please send us pictures. Let us know. We want to see what that experience looks like. We couldn't even get tickets. Like they just sold out that quickly, and Mike doesn't love us as much as we thought. So let's get into the bad news of the week. Speaking of things happening, Isaac Ainking loaned to Forward Madison in the USL 1. You don't want to see this happen. Obviously, he's a fan favorite amongst the team for one, his connection to the state, you know, the realization of how great he was in the short amount of time we got to see him last season. He's got the New England Revolution Academy and the New England Revolution first team kind of connections there. But he goes on, this transfer happens, and to no joke, I mean, with immediate effect, he goes down, or goes up, I guess, if we think about it from a geography standpoint, goes on to that team, becomes available immediately for selection on Saturday, subbed in the 62nd minute, only to score 8 minutes later for Madison's only goal of the match against Birmingham Legion, against a championship side in the Jägermeister Cup. I don't know what, like, you want to see this, right? You want to see him get the minutes. You want to see him get these kinds of contributions because that's something that's been missing in his time with Rhode Island. But it's really frustrating to know that we have this player of caliber. We've now loaned him out, and he sees instant success on a team, mind you, where Noah Fuson cut his teeth just a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean, in the sense, I'm happy for him that he is getting, getting some play time. You know, he was kind of in and out of the side here. He was mostly getting garbage time minutes to a certain extent, 15, 20. There's always a possibility. Like, who knows what'll happen in the offseason. He could come back and maybe make his way back into the first team, depending upon how things pan out for the rest of the year.
I mean, exactly. This is why Anking went out to get that loan. He's been fighting for minutes in a very congested midfield. I mean, we now find that Ugo Bacharak is a midfielder as well. So like the talent stacking just continues to get deeper and deeper. It's great to see him get something tangible so soon, but it hurts that he couldn't find a way onto our team to do those kinds of things and to get those opportunities. Like you said, Anking, he's only played 58 minutes since he returned from his injury at the beginning of June after the last Riverhounds match away, where he did dress for that game but did not play. He's now the second player. He's become the second player, I should say, now loaned out from our squad. It's a loan for the remainder of the season, but anything is possible. We've seen loans get recalled from us and then given back. There could be a path forward that Anking is a player of need at some point for the remainder of the season, or it could be that we've seen the last of his time playing with the Amber and Blue. We just don't know how these things will work with players like him and Okiyoshi. There's a good chance that these players are kind of on continuous club option contracts, and they have to make the most of their time. But we could have seen the last of Anking already, and that's a scary thought.
Yeah, not something you want to think about at this point. Like I said, we'll just kind of hope for the best, and maybe we'll get to see him back in the Amber and Blue next year.
How many goals does he have to score before Kano's like, yep, I need him back? Is it 5? Is it 8? And then we just go ahead and call him back, bud.
How much more of the season do we have? About 3 months-ish.
Yeah.
We can get to like between 5 and 10. Maybe throw
Jack
a couple
was
in there.
recalled for less, so I'll take it. I will also say we did send out that cryptic message because we had found out that he was leaving a little earlier, and people were asking like, oh, what do you know? And obviously we're not going to share that. But I was surprised. We weren't at the Wave Kit launch, but every player except for him and Haribo were not there. And I'm like, someone's going to figure this out. Someone's going to go, yo, I didn't see Isaac at the, despite he was in all the promo videos for the Wave Kit. And I figured someone would put it together, but sadly, no.
Maybe the fact that he was in the Wave Kit reveal got people to think, he's just out for tonight or something.
And that's what I can also report, that Anking was pursued by Forward Madison. So this wasn't a situation where Kano was like, hey, you're not going to get minutes. We'll find a team for you and, punch you on to something else. Anking, Kano, no one wanted him to leave the squad. Forward Madison came forward requesting a loan, looking for an opportunity to make sure that he got those performances, he got those reps, and all parties said, hey, like this might be the best thing for the interim for the time being. So you hate to see it, but great for Forward Madison, great for Isaac Anking, and hopefully we can see something kind of manifest from it a little later into the season. But we got to get into this game now. That's the news for the most part. Are you ready to recap everything El Clamico round 2 Electric Boogaloo?
I mean, if we have to, yeah.
We do have to. It's literally our job here on this podcast. We talk about this every single week. So let's get into it here with the Jägermeister results. We're going to start first with a recap of the actual overall performances before we get into the match itself, unpacking this 2-2 draw, which then becomes a loss in penalties to Hartford. We're going to talk about the overall impact of that, what it did to the table, and then what it's done as both teams have now advanced into the quarterfinals. So first and foremost, Jason, we talked through the math last week. There were some crazy circumstances, which is why we couldn't say Rhode Island FC had an automatic qualification, because certain teams could jump other teams based on point accumulation. Other teams were in the hunt from a goal for metric, which was the first tiebreaker that they used, which came in very clutch for Hartford Athletic here. But we talked about that. So kind of looking at the 90 minutes here, the team draws on a 2-2, and we know automatically Rhode Island FC has won the top of their group, right? They remain unbeaten in Group 4 with 3 wins and 1 draw. But they had a chance here to do something more than just outright win the group. We talk about table stakes all the time. We talk about what matters when it comes to pride of the badge, and especially lining up against the rest to the west. There was a chance here for Rhode Island FC to deny Hartford outright, right? A win would have put them completely out of contention, and even just winning on penalties in that draw outcome would have denied them the necessary point to be able to be a contender at that 9-point draw spread. Instead, we drop the ball. We can't get the win on the night, despite being a man down for a majority of the match. And then, of course, we can't get it done in penalties. I don't think we ever will get it done in penalties. And we give them the edge, getting them the 9 points, entering them into the lead for the goals for column, and they advance on that second wild card spot. We're going to unpack the match here in a second, but the first question I'm going to ask yourself, is this a Hartford Athletic earned victory, or is this a self-inflicted RIFC loss?
Oof. I mean, I think to give some credit to Hartford, I think that they went out there and sure, did they tap into the dark arts? Absolutely. But they seem to have a bit more fight in them than we did. I think if you go back and watch the game, like we didn't really feel like we were starting to attack till like the second half when we were up a man since like the 30th minute. And we were down 1-0 at halftime. You know, it in their regards, it kind of felt like they took it a little more seriously than we did. They came out here with a point to prove against us. And they're like, you guys are out here trashing on us, hating on us. You've got all this, you know, beat Hartford, all this and that. And they came here with a chip on their shoulder and was like, we're going to prove that we deserve to be in this league and that we can, you know, compete. And I mean, we saw it last night. They absolutely smashed New Mexico at home. I mean, maybe they're finally turning it around. I don't know. I mean, in the regards to, they're only 1 point behind us, I think.
We don't need to talk about that today. Let's not live in that mindset.
And you look at like I said, RFC was up a man from the 30th minute, and you wouldn't know that watching the game. They were pressing us and hounding us and making us uncomfortable, where we were just throwing long balls up there for like Hail Marys. And it's like, we should be controlling this game. We should be pushing them back. And instead, they came to our own house and made us feel uncomfortable. I mean, it feels more like a win for them and a loss for us.
I mean, technically, by the definition of it, they did win the game since they accumulated more points on the night than us. I know it is a draw. I would argue that it's the best way we could possibly lose. You know, we talked last week about the rivalry and what it means to actually make this mean something. You know, Hartford has to get some victories somewhere for this to have gravitas back and forth. We can't just continuously dominate them in the weirdest of silver linings. And I'm talking like winning the World Series during COVID, when you had to play a smaller number of games with only your bubble group of people. I will tell you that this loss feels like the best possible outcome. And I'm not being a homer when I say this. I truly mean that, hey, if we're going to drop points, at least it doesn't get registered as an L, and we still took the top of the group. So like that positive Matt, that's what he's clawing onto. But if you ask the fans, this was outright a unacceptable performance. This was a loss. And we're going to see in a minute, we're going to have Coach McKay's interview on here. And he may have a difference of opinions on that. But to the fans, not beating your rival in your stadium, not getting the first ever win at Centerville Bank Stadium, it makes the result feel hollow. It makes the success of Jägermeister so far kind of feel like there's a little bit of a taint to it now.
Yeah, it's like we got past the finish line, but it feels like we tripped up and stumbled and rolled over it as opposed to like finishing gracefully.
Agreed. So now we want to quickly just kind of go over what the implications of these table standings have for the overall quarterfinals now as we get into it. With this advancement in Group 1, we are hosting on Wednesday, August 20th against the Birmingham Legion, who are going to come back to Centerville Bank Stadium one additional time to see if they can strike lightning twice and spark something at that match. A lot of fans have been asking if this game is a part of the season ticket member package. It is not. So make sure you check your emails. There is currently a pre-sale link out for season ticket members to purchase discounted seats, parking, and whatnot for the match. The regular tickets to the general public do go on sale on Monday, August 4th at 2 p.m. So if you're thinking about coming to this game and you love your seat, or you're looking to get those early kind of pre-sale discounts, go in there now and buy that. Some fans complaining that this should be included or given as a freebie. That's not how it works. There's a lot of stadium employees. There's a lot of personnel and resources that have to go into this. This is a game where, yeah, you're going to have to pay for it, but it now has consequences. It's a game that we're now into knockout soccer again, since we have been, the Open Cup being the last match. So it's kind of fun to see this tacked on. Jason, before we move on, though, going back into this quarterfinal, we're now into additional games, right? We talked about the Jägermeister being a replacement for 4 matches that we lost against Western Conference opponents. We are now physically adding minutes to the clock on these players' legs for the remainder of the season, depending on how far they go into it. First and foremost, where are you at on this Jägermeister performance, and does Kano need to go all in on it?
I think after this last game, which, I think we all agree, most fans feel that despite the result coming favorable, like it felt like a loss. So in that regards, you really want to see that team go out there and take it seriously, because at that point, quarterfinal, semifinal, final, I mean, you're 3 games away from winning a trophy, compared to us being in, are we 9th or 10th right now?
We're in 10th. Like, we can't get out of that 10th position.
At this point, the bar for the actual league keeps getting lower and lower, right? Like top 4 is out of the question. At this point, we're like, hopefully we can sneak into 8th. Like, unless drastic
right now,
things happen.
We are only 6 points removed from 5th place, which
absolutely
is occupied by Pittsburgh.
I just, at this point, based upon the performances that you've seen, not our potential, like you wouldn't believe that's where we would land, right?
Agreed. Looking back at these teams that are left now, you've got Loudoun United, Sacramento Republic, Indy 11, Greenville Triumph.
Nice to see
only USL
at least one lower team.
San Antonio and Hartford. I will say, again, more silver lining here, a little bit of copium. None of these teams are unbeatable. Granted, we haven't gotten a result against Sacramento. I feel like, just like you were mentioning a second ago, with Hartford kind of sparking this week against New Mexico, using us as a springboard, Sacramento has gone on a terrific run now after kind of pasting us at Centerville Bank Stadium. Indy 11, I don't think that they have demonstrated yet that they can beat us in a sound manner. We've already taken and we've given back to the Legion. And then Loudoun's probably the one that has me the most questionable. Not insulting San Antonio or the Triumph, but Loudoun's probably the only one on here that's really scaring me right now.
Yeah, Loudoun, and then even to a certain extent, San Antonio, like that. Those two feel like probably somewhat like potential favorites for this competition, I would imagine. Outside of that, San Antonio, you're not 100% sure what you're going to get. We don't exactly know if Hartford has actually turned it on, or if it's just a bit of luck and they'll just capitulate and fall apart again. It would be kind of cool to see Greenville Triumph go through, right? That's what you want, that underdog,
like Open Cup variant.
Yeah, that underdog story. And then maybe hopefully as years continue on, more Jaeger Cups come through and we get to see some more opportunities for like these lower teams to really showcase their talent.
Yeah, like we said, this is a unique year. It's before the expansion into Division 1, so there's going to be farther and fewer opportunities to win this as this cup changes some of the rules of inclusion moving forward. So exciting to see what happens here. And remember too, after this match, the whole thing gets re-rolled again. We're not in a bracket now where we take on another team. They'll re-roll everything again. I'm sure they have a mechanism that the winners don't like host 2 times in a row, despite Centerville Bank Stadium being one of those fun, shiny products to use. I imagine that should we advance, we'll most likely be playing a team at their stadium next. So brace yourself for that, but hopefully we have a good turnout for that August 20th match. That'll also be, by the way, as an added game, a midweek game right before the third and final El Clamico of the regular season. So a little bit more added to that as we go. But Jason, let's get into the overall performance of this match last weekend. Coach Kano Smith not able to coach this team, at least directly. I did see him in the locker room area after the match, so he was definitely on site. Who knows how much of this was Kano versus maybe Dave McKay given a little bit of a longer leash to coach this team as he saw fit in this Jägermeister round. But let's first talk about how Coach McKay set up this squad.
Yeah, so kind of a return here. This looks like a 5-3-2, which is also kind of the same thing as a 3-5-2.
We're back, baby.
We're back. So Jackson Lee still in net. We've all seen Koke hanging around. If we don't, at some point, we know he's going to start. Who knows when that's going to happen? Anyways, we have a back 3 here of right in front of Jackson there. Frank Nodarse, Ame Mabika, Karifa Yao. Those wing backs being Clay Holstad and Jose Equizera, or depending on if we're going to say this is a 3-5-2, they could be those, wide midfielders. Then in that midfield 3, or like the 2 and the 1, we've got Amos Shapiro-Thompson, Hugo Bacharach, and Mark Ibarra, with JJ Williams and Noah Fuson up top.
So let's address it here. We've been asking for the 3-5-2, the 5-3-2 all season. Why tonight? Why did we see this on this game day? Was it the available talent finally?
Was
it
Dave McKay?
Kano mixing things up? Or did McKay go rogue and said, look at me, I'm the coach now, right? Like, let's unpack this for a second. One, why did it take this long to see it? And would you call it a success? Because in some ways, I would say it was great to see 2 goals get scored they both weren't the run of play, similar to the North Carolina match, but it was great to see 2 goals nevertheless scored at Centerville Bank Stadium. But it seems like it came at a cost. Our defense suddenly couldn't hold back. Again, a 10-man Hartford Athletic, and 1 to set pieces, and then 1 in the run of play. What are your overall thoughts on the reemergence of this formation?
I mean, we play it 1 game and we score 2 goals. Do we give in 2? Sure. But it's 1 game. At that point, you would think after some consistency, like what we had last year, where we just stuck with the same formation. And I guess you could also argue maybe if we kept going with 4-2-3-1, it would eventually work. It doesn't feel the same though as last year did, where the 3-5-2, we are at least solid defensively and we got a lot of draws, and we just felt like we just need the offense to click. Well, here we go to a 3-5-2 and the offense clicks. We just need to sort the back out a little bit. And at that point, like because we've seen so few goals at Centerville Bank Stadium that like the fact that we at least got to celebrate 2 goals, another silver lining to a unfortunate game.
We swear we didn't like this game, fans. Like we'll make sure we preface that. Okay, so then let's talk about the pros beyond the goals getting scored. 1, Bacharach and Williams getting their first starts at Centerville Bank Stadium. Huge. I think the cons, Darcy going down, another lower body injury, very much looked like he was clutching his hamstrings. He was able to walk off on mostly his own power without any kind of limping, so hard to rate what kind of grade or strain it was to his hamstrings. Don't know yet when he'll be available. I doubt he'll be available for this match coming into this weekend, so that's a rough one to see. But then also in addition to that, Holstead in the right wing back experiment continues, and he had a terrible game. I hate having to talk about Clay in anything but the positive, but he had one of the worst games of his career, in my opinion. I didn't realize this until I started looking at I usually only stick to the team performance stats, looked into the player stats, looking for the apples to kind of cherry pick. That's a great analogy. But looking for those thoughts to pull apart, Holstead had the worst dueling on the night. He lost the most duels across any player combined for both sides of this game.
So Clay is a Swiss Army knife, right? But is right midfielder, right wing back really his position? I mean, like at a certain point, he needs to play in the midfield. And this is still the curse of Turnbull. Like we don't like who is that right-sided midfielder, wing back, like whatever. I don't know who that is. I mean, we have Danny Rivera, who's played 15 minutes this year. Like I don't know what the answer to that question is. I think that
the surprise to me is that we know that Stoneman's still injured, but we thought Frank could be the step in, but now you look at Ibarra and Bacharach. If those are your center 6 pivots, if you will, the only 8 spot left in this formation is that forward one, which historically is an Amos, it's a Maxi, it's a Zach Harivo. Clay has always benefited from being a deeper number 8, number 6. Clay by no means will ever get displaced on this team unless he's playing right wing back, apparently. But it is tough to see players being continuously played out of positions. And then in those versatile moments when we talk about how good they are, then seeing them struggle. Because if Clay was more centrally tucked into that midfield, he would have thrived in this match. So it's like you want to give him
got run through by a Hartford. I don't know.
You never know. I guess the other question I want to quickly ask you is looking at this, going back to the formation here for a second. I want to ask you look at this bench. If you can clear the comments for a second, you've got Chico, Rodriguez, Brito, Sanchez, Hopegund, and Rivera all sitting on that bench. Chico, we know, has been kind of inconsistent with his streaks this season. Obviously, with JJ back, it seems like it'll be a fight for the future between Fuson and Chico. But Maxi now relegated to a substitution capacity against one of our our biggest teams with table stakes on the line. What's that indicate to you as Maxey suddenly is now taking a back seat in some of these big games?
I think that's the conundrum we have with him, where he is clearly a very talented player. We thought we found a spot where he played as a 6 next to Clay, but then we immediately changed that, I think, next game. So, like, I think they don't know what to do with him, right? I think that, it's one of those things where is this another circumstance where with like some of the players that we maybe acquired last year, they're just like, well, that guy's available, let's get him. And then coach kind of had to sort through all of these, for all intents and purposes, good players to find a system that works. And at this point, do we just not have a system that works with him in it?
I mean, if you asked me from last year,
he clearly could score penalties, right? If he could take every penalty, we would never lose a penalty shootout.
Fun fact, I was looking at his penalty heat map. He has shot every single penalty the same direction in the same space. I don't know why keepers have. I don't want to burn our. I mean, no teams listening to us.
Yeah, they don't have
insider information, but
he just hits it too hard and it's too accurate, and they just can't get to it.
Maybe, but it is something to ask, because when Maxey came on, we thought he was going to be this transformative player. We thought we could see him in a duality of a forward front attacking position and then somewhere in the midfield. We haven't seen that second part of his game because he's never been given the permission to go up. But now, as all these players are healthy and we find Bacharach, it may be the future coming of a USL Busquets. Like it makes it a problem. I mean, we've lost Isaac, we've lost Taimu now to loans. The midfield doesn't seem to be the problem. It seems to have been wingbacks and forwards, and Maxey doesn't really fit either one of those profiles per se. So this is an interesting thing. I think this is going to be the ongoing discussion we have for the remainder of the season, no matter which direction this team pulls its performances. Is like, why did we bring Maxey? And if it was just he was too talented to not, because like, remember, you taking him away from another team also hurts that.
We're just hoarding talent.
Right. But like, now what do we do with it? Right. So let's go through what Coach Dave McKay had to say about this. We prefaced a lot of the questions about what were the momentum, what were the negatives, and how are you going to recover from this? And I'll be upfront before you listen. Coach McKay really felt that this was a more positive outcome, which kind of had me questioning, did the RIFC staff, did the RIFC players see this result the same way the fans felt it? So here's Coach Dave McKay in his own words.
Well, the positive is we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We're top of the group. We go on to a quarterfinal that we're going to host, and that was our objective. So we've achieved that. The manner in which it came, we're not overly pleased with, and we know that we have to improve.
Kind of going over that, you guys have kind of struggled to put the ball in net in previous games. Is getting 2 goals, obviously having the penalty kicks to help as well. Is that an encouraging sign moving forward, especially from an offensive standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you score multiple goals in a game, that's a positive, and we'll definitely take that. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Shakira Thompson's performance? He scored today. It's his first goal for Rhode Island, second of his career, or of his professional career. Just your thoughts on his performance overall.
Excellent. Yeah, Amos is a guy who shows up every single day. We didn't see a whole lot of him last year because he had some pretty bad injuries, and this year he's really shown us the type of player that he is. He also set up the second goal with his touch and his ball into Dikwa for the penalty. So yeah, I would say excellent.
Coach, you go down a goal despite being a man up. What was the conversation that was addressed to the players in the locker room?
Just being positive, because we're down a goal, but we know that there's goals there for us. We know that we have to take advantage of their player being sent off. So it was a positive message, and the group knew. We've conceded from a corner, which we're never pleased with, and again need to improve. But they knew that there was goals in that game for us.
And then responding, you not only then equalize, you then go up, but the second goal for Hartford comes immediately after. What were your overall thoughts on the team's performance, giving up that goal immediately after, especially again, the same thing, being up a man?
Yeah, not pleased. They've literally just played a long ball over the top, and we haven't dealt with it. We haven't dealt with the bounce, which maybe it shouldn't have been allowed to bounce. We haven't dealt with the ball in behind. We're always talking about protecting the space in behind, and we didn't, and we got punished for it. So yeah, not pleased.
I have to ask about Hairston's antics of the injury. Obviously, if a player's hurt, they need to be taken care of, but lots of time wasted in that second half from the Hartford Athletic player. Is that good for the game? What were your overall thoughts on how you responded? And did the refs get that right with the amount of time they added on at the end of the match?
Yeah, I can't really speak to what their players are doing. And yeah, maybe it could have been a little bit more time added on, but yeah, I'm not going to get into what their players are doing and what their tactics are.
This is obviously the second time you faced this team in a short time period. Kind of, just what are your thoughts on the overall rivalry that's building from both Rhode Island and Hartford being essentially down the road from each other? What is this like? What does this bring to the game? And what's the locker room's vibes on facing Hartford?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We like playing against them. We enjoy it. Last year we got the better of them. This year they're a much better team than they were last year, despite where they are in the standings. They've got some very good players. They've improved the roster. They've got a different playing style than they did last year. They've got a very good staff and head coach. So yeah, it's a challenge, and we like it. And we that's how you want it to be. You don't want your rival to be someone that's an easy game. So yeah, we enjoy it.
Connor mentioned last week the 0-0, despite the lack of goals, it was momentum to carry into this match. You now have a 2-2 draw. Doesn't go your way in penalties. What are you going to be telling the team? What are you going to be working through with the technical staff as the momentum to carry into next week's game?
Yeah, well, like we talked about the positives of scoring multiple goals in the game, and then we need to clean up on the other side of it. So those are the big messages, to continue on offensively, continue on and continue to create, and be better defensively. It's a pretty simple message.
It's a pretty simple message, and yet we didn't get the win. Overall thoughts on McKay kind of telling us how it was in that match?
I mean, maybe he was just trying to play politics there and just not cause any problems, right? It's how often are we going to see McKay go up and answer this? I think it happened one other time this season, right?
Yeah, Kano has a commitment to McKay as part of his coaching, is to get in front of media, to have those moments where he explains the team performance in case one day we see him in some head gaffer role. It's part of his development. Yeah,
so in that regards, coming out and like blasting the team or whatever, like I don't think that's gonna do any good. I almost wonder in terms of the dynamic, is it good cop, bad cop, where Kano's blasting them and Dave McKay's like, it's okay, buddy. Let's just work on this.
I've been on that training pitch plenty of times. They all scream. I think maybe the only one I never hear screaming is Spratty, but everyone else will yell at their players when they need to. So, but yeah, maybe McKay is the good cop. Maybe we need to see like a movie poster of good cop, bad cop, and Kano and some shades, and McKay there like with the leather jacket and the slick back hair. I could see it happening. Kano saying, I'm getting too old for this, that kind of stuff. Listen, I think overall, it's fair to say that this team accomplished its objectives, because when you pull back, yes, they won Group 4. But, and I said this on one of the spaces earlier this week, I don't feel like the team took it on the chin because of the result of winning the group. And I am not saying, and remember, these are professionals. I interviewed Ame Mavika right after this, and we didn't even touch this subject because in his mind, the professional player that he is, he's already moved on to the next one, because he needs to prepare and get focused for the points that can be had ahead, not dwell on the past. But the fan in me, Jason, the guy that when I'm not doing this podcast or reporting on the club, I want to see this team get a little bit more emotional, get a little more heated, get a little more upset when a result against this other particular team doesn't go their way. I thought we would see more of that. I thought we would see more fight after what Siaha had done in the first matchup earlier the week before. I don't know that translated into the match. And Mabika said it himself in the interview. He stays cool and calm and collected. He doesn't let those things get to him. He gets excited to play the game for the potential of what a rivalry means. But they don't get into the emotional garbage space. They don't go drift compatible and get super angry with their lives. As a fan or as a podcaster, I don't know which way you want to answer this. Did you feel like the team showed up in the way that the fans were hoping that they would show up?
No, I didn't feel like they put the level of like fight and energy out there that we really wanted from them. You know, we talked to some of the players afterwards, you know, like I was talking to Jackson afterwards, and you know, he said that they, you know, they're out there trying and they're doing what they can, and you know, that's fair. But in that regards, you know, we saw after the first win how excited some of the players were. Like you want that like that energy from them. And it just didn't feel like this meant that much to them in a sense of like it was just another game.
Surprisingly, too, when you go back and look at afterwards, you know, because it goes to penalties, right? The team loses and they kind of like Siaha does his showboating. We'll talk about that in a second again. But then the team just kind of limps over to Defiance, a muted Defiance, by the way. We haven't even talked about the sanctions. We had hinted at it on last week's show that these were going to be coming. Defiance, no smoke, no banners, no flags, no drums, no chanting, just a completely absent thing. The best thing that I saw in the comments, we posted a video of it. Someone said, "Oh, I've seen this before at Gillette Stadium. This is just a Revolution game now." Hashtag not an MLS podcast. But
Shots fired.
having said that, that was a fan. That wasn't us even saying it. Having said that, what hurt me the most was we saw the team starting to walk towards Defiance, and Defiance was angry. Fans were angry. They were disappointed. But they also wanted to cheer the team on. And Koke and the team kind of came together and said, "Hey, we'll be right back. We need to go have a team meeting in the locker room." And so they immediately go off the pitch, and then they come back out, and they don't really address anything. They just show back up because they're in Autograph Alley signing everything for the kids and for the fans. So, like, I remember these games of last season where Defiance was like in their megaphone screaming at them, like, if you don't take all
We
3
had no
points, you
megaphones
better
this
go
time,
live
though,
in
right?
Connecticut. Maybe that's what was missing. It just, to me, it just, we talked about accountability last week about having Defiance having to take on so many of these responsibilities, these burdens for things that had happened. I just wanted the players just to be a little bit more in tune with how the fans felt about that result. And like my favorite thing in the world is when a player scores and then he goes to the badge, kisses the badge, slaps the badge, whatever. And it just, that didn't feel like it was there. I don't know that it's there with this team in these big moments. I know they all bleed amber and blue, but on a loss like that, I don't know. I just felt like they kind of walked off the pitch. By the time I got out of the press room, Maxey was already dressed back to the nines, ready to take off for the night. And again, these are professional players. They have lives outside of this. This is they have to be in a state where they can go on to the next game. But as the upset fan, it felt a little hollow.
Part of that maybe is just the difference in this team compared to last year. Like, what type of momentum do we have right now? Like, we don't know what this team is. We're kind of fumbling around, tripping over ourselves to a certain extent. Our lineups keep changing. You know, we were a 4-2-3-1. We maybe play 3-5-2 again, but we still, you know, it's just the starting formation still kind of all over the place when we're out of possession and stuff like that. I don't know how to describe this team outside of inconsistent this year.
We said it. Actually, I was listening to one of our episodes a few weeks back, just recently, because I was trying to find a piece of audio to clip, and we had a moment where we said it was the Sacramento game, how we had noticed how it's not Briggs because it's Collins, how Collins had set up his team with team movement. When you had actually referenced that it feels like sometimes RIFC has a 3-player tactic and then relies on the skills of those individual players to create some moment of magic. Whereas in the Sacramento system right now, they force the magic to happen through stellar positioning, like planned, like deliberate, planned, practiced passing, and then being available for second ball collection. I think that's a little bit more of what RIFC is going through. Now, maybe with the return to the formation they're the most comfortable with, maybe we'll see more of that. I don't know. But Mabika himself said it earlier this week, chopping and changing that formation right now would be the worst thing possible. If anything, it's continue to get what you need to get down and then find a really core starting 11 that, you know, can kind of survive being caught up in the injury bug. And that's where you'll see the success start to unfold for this Rhode Island FC side. let's get into the overall, like, kind of talking about the game itself. Want to run down these scoreline moments. We have to open things up with TJ Precious as he scores in the 40+3. They're down a man, Jason. It's a set piece goal. I would argue set piece defending has not been the best from us this season, but Joe Farrell kind of works some weird corner magic, like dangerous right in front of the box, and puts one in to shock. I mean, silence Centerville Bank Stadium. We thought we had this in the bag because we had this man advantage, and Precious was like, no, hold my lunch.
Yeah, you have to give Precious here some credit, right? For him to be able to kind of shift his body to get his feet in the ball, kind of flick that forward. It's not the easiest, but that being said, we are up a man at this point. Like, you should be winning those. Like, we should comfortably be able to win those duels, because at that point they're not going to put too many people forward. So we should have the defensive advantage there. And the fact that we like gave up a goal on a set piece, I mean, is that just the story of our season at this point?
RIFC actually won 70% of their aerial duels for the night in matchups against Hartford. So yeah, it makes it hard and difficult to understand. And it comes right at the end of the first half, which is just a gut punch as they're going into that second episode or second part of the match. I look then, it feels like all is lost. And then Amos Shapiro-Thompson says, wait, I can take care of everything. He fires, it's a deflected shot, but it just completely blanks Siaha and goes right at Siaha. Doesn't even react to the shot. He just completely freezes, goes in, and Amos just immediately runs over to celebrate. He's the happiest I've ever seen him. And we've seen a pretty happy Amos Shapiro-Thompson in the past. Overall thoughts on the goal, the equalizer to get RFC back in the fight?
I mean, yeah, the goal there in the 49th minute, his first ever goal for RIFC. Kind of crazy to think about that. And then only a second in his professional career. Got an assist from Mark Ibarra, which is his first goal contribution. It's easy
Weird that Mark's been quiet this entire. Well, I mean, I know he had the injuries, but like
he also feels like he's been out the entire season too. Like, he played 5 or 6 games, and then hasn't been back till recently. So, and I mean, I don't know if I would say he like always gave us tons of assists last year, but I feel like he maybe gave a lot of hockey assists. Like, his delivery is good. He's good from like a dead ball situation. He can like kind of deliver those aerial crosses, put them in good places, and then maybe someone else gets that knocked down before they convert that chance. So it's kind of good to see him get back in there. We talk about the conundrum with like, well, who do we not put out there, right? It's like, I feel like you need Ibarra out there, but then you need Clay, but then we also bought, Ugo Bacharach, who's
Zach Harrivan should be starting any time now.
Should we just switch to oops all midfielders now and just not play any defenders?
I don't know. It's tough. I will say this, though, with Amos's goal. I don't know if you remember this, Jason, but we promised something very special to the listeners when Amos did finally score his first goal. So you will want to stay to the end of this episode, because we will be ending on a very special AST 77 ending. And no, it is not AST do AS. It's not that. But I'm okay if that continues to happen and we give AST the baby shark treatment.
Is that going to be his like personal chant there?
I mean, after that SpongeBob read on the Discord, I'll take anything at this point. That was fantastic.
I'm down for that chant.
That was pure chaos, and
very well. We just need to recruit a flute player.
I think Defiance has one. All right, so let's continue on then. So now RFC goes from trailing to they've equalized, and then they move on 30 minutes later as Chico gets subbed in and immediately provides what Chico does really well, which is falling down in the box. It was a legitimate penalty. I feel bad in the sense that, like, if Hartford had just realized that Chico was running away from the goal, like, and at the speed that he was at, there was no way he was going to trap that ball. There's no way he was going to flip it back towards net.
I did go back and watch that specific moment, and you're right. It is a foul. He pushes him blatantly in the back. There's no effort at all to make a play on the ball. However, Noah was making a run across the box. So if he was able to kind of turn and put that low, there's a possibility that he could have at least created a chance.
Yeah, and we've seen Chico do that. He did the back heel to Jojea Quizera for the Riverhounds. Like, it's in his skill set. It's in his wheelhouse. But It was a stupid penalty to award. I'll take it. I'm the RIFC fan here, and I'm all about it. But Hartford definitely blunders on that. And then, of course, we've got Chico subbed in now to do those kinds of things, to be physical in the box. And now you've got Maxi Rodriguez, ice in his veins. He's the one that's going to take the penalties. He is the destined penalty taker, maybe besides him and JJ. And he steps up to the spot and does what only Maxi Rodriguez can do and buries it. So now we've gone from trailing, equalized, to the lead. Incredible times.
Yeah. And that's actually with that goal, Maxi Rodriguez is tied with the team leading with 5th of the year in all competitions, and responsible for both regulation penalty kick goals in Centerville Bank Stadium.
That's a wild statement. So unfortunately, though, because it's not over, right? Then Adrian Diz, who
did you after we went up 2-1 feel like we had it?
I thought we had it.
I didn't get the vibes from the team. The fact that
thought we had it.
I was like, they're gonna score.
No, because the thing is that Hartford was strictly a transition team at that point. So I figured once we went up, we could just play the deeper set block and then just absorb, because Hartford wasn't doing anything to break us down. They were catching us in transition where we needed to go deeper into Hartford territory so that we could get the goal. Once we went up, and I'm not saying park the bus, but we could have dropped, we talk about the 3-5-2 and then it becomes the 5-3-2. We could have just become the 5-3-2. The problem was and like Coach McKay said, I didn't think we get caught napping on a Route 1 over the top again. I thought we were behind that. I thought we had put that past ourselves. It goes over the top. Then there's a ball fed right into the middle, running into Adrian Diz. Of all people, like Adrian Diz is a defender. He shouldn't be in that space. But DeYoung lays one right across and he rifles it in past Jackson Lee in the top of the penalty area. Now that the game is equalized, and it happens just 4 minutes later.
I just from my perspective, I didn't feel like with a penalty, you can win a penalty and score a goal without necessarily having the momentum in your favor, right? Someone just has a lapse of judgment, makes a bad decision in a box, and just there you go. Free opportunity goal. While RIFC dominated the second half to a certain extent, it felt like they were kind of trailing off there. They didn't feel, I would say, very threatening.
The crispiness, that's been the word we've used a lot this year. The passing sequences didn't feel tight. It felt like they were getting desperate for a through ball or to cut into the final third. And they didn't seem to be able to build around and get through Hartford's defense. Despite the wing overloads that they were attempting, Hartford was really good about engaging in like a mid press, holding their ground, and then on the recycle, kind of keeping Rhode Island from getting into shape. But then once Rhode Island came into that final third and they committed numbers, they knew, like, hey, you've already gotten past this. We're either going to hold on to this for dear life and have some amazing defending, some emergency defending. And that's what they did. Most of these times, like, Hartford was right back out. Hartford played faster, they played harder, and they played tougher. Again, talking about pride, talking about what's at stake. Rhode Island, in a weird way, and this is why I wonder if this is like what players think about, they're up 1. If this result stands, they're through clear, and Hartford has to claw one back, and they're still through clear. Like, I'm not saying the players phoned it in, but like Hartford had more to lose, and it showed in the desperateness of their play style.
Yeah, and in that regards, would you then rather have seen RIFC try and attack more, or do you think just parking the bus? Because I don't feel that's really something that's in this team's wheelhouse, is to just play.
And that's what I didn't want to go with parking the bus, but there's a difference between, like, look at how we've played the four back.
Don't commit too many men forward.
Yes, we've played that possession of where we do 12 passes before we enter into the opponent's final third. More of that versus committing numbers forward. We had the advantage. We had the man advantage. We had the goal advantage. We didn't need to do anything crazy. We just needed to play clean, simple football. You heard it from McKay.
Over the line.
We needed to play simple. And I think at the end there, we didn't allow ourselves to play simple. But breaking down the Diz equalizer, and we talked about how it came just 4 minutes after Maxi's penalty, I want to bring up the stat. RIFC have only led in 9 individual times this season, resulting in just 4 wins in the season against championship teams. In a couple of those, there was 2 different times where they were in the lead. So thinking back to the Phoenix game that didn't result in a win, and now thinking about like this Hartford Athletic game, across all championship performances, we have only led 9 times, and we've also only led for 18% of the total minutes that we've played this season. We've talked at length about how this team, when they score first, they win. And that's true. Some of these matches, we've scored in the 15th minute, we've scored in the 45th minute, and we can hold on to that win. But only 18% of our total minutes played this season have been where we've been in lead. We have been chasing games far too long. And then when we do get ahead, we can't seem to hold that lead in a majority of the competitions. That's a rough stat. And there's a reason you're going to see why our offense is as bad as it has been. And I don't want to put it all on like the returning of JJ or the future emergence of Busy, who's going to join the team here any day now. But it's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, when we look at like penalty shooters, right? When we move on to the end, it's 2-2. We're going straight to penalties. There is no.
You know how you asked me, did I feel like we were going to win that game? And I said yes. I will absolutely tell you, when we went to penalties, I had no faith. I had no faith whatsoever because half of our best penalty takers had already been subbed off.
We had like JJ, Clay, Jojea. I mean, like at that point, what do we? It didn't feel great.
It was 2024 U.S. Open Cup, Charlotte Independence vibes all over again.
Yeah,
all over again.
I don't trust this team in a penalty shootout until I can see it happen. Right? We know we have a few consistent players, but it feels like they're maybe not always there.
So a couple of questions. Obviously, we lose in penalties where Siaha doesn't block any of them. We miss 2, a Marky Barra miss, and then Aldair Sanchez misses for the final one, so Hartford gets to go on. A couple people asked me after that match, did we set ourselves up for the best shooting order possible with the players we had available? And I asked one fan, that's like, well, who should have replaced someone like Marky Barr or Aldair? And they said Amos Shapiro-Thompson, Joe Brito. And that's all fun and dandy when you start trying to like play the hypothetical. But I actually went and looked at the conversion rate of all of the players that were available. The only one I couldn't find was Mabika's because he doesn't have any USL history. Actually, Ibarra and Sanchez were the best 2 possible ones. Everyone else is below 50% in their penalty conversion rates at any point in their USL careers across USL 2, USL 1, or USL Championship. So for all intent and purpose, this was the best possible one. We're just doomed to never be able to actually convert on penalties. When we just don't want to get into the shootout era. We don't want it. We want nothing to do with it whatsoever. So, of course, we knock ourselves out of the match and we give Hartford the go-ahead. Jason, what I want to ask you, though, and this is where we get back to that Siaha moment, was Siaha actually effective? Did he get to dance in this game? Because we built that joke reel, which he came at us, by the way. I don't even think I've told you yet. He was not a happy person. He was trolling fans after telling them, like, you didn't win the group. You have nothing to brag about. I won't share those stories. Those are fan stories that shared with us. But Siaha didn't do anything this match. He froze on the deflection from Amos Shapiro-Thompson. He missed every single penalty. The post or just the RIFC player going wide is what stopped those balls from going in. Fans from the Hartford camp say, well, that's just the mental barrier that Siaha put in those players' minds. But other than that, Siaha had like 2 saves with balls that were going less than 5 miles an hour at him. And then every goal that was scored, granted, Hartford's both were in the run of play. He ran out and like antagonized RIFC players. He ran all the way to the other side of the pitch to scream in their faces. He did the shushing again at the end of the game. His first match, minus the lewd gesture, he was definitely what kept Hartford in. I don't think Siaha was effective at all in this match. And like, if you're going to gloat that much, like give another player on your team the right to do so. You did nothing this game to do that.
He's the perfect villain there in the sense that he's taking all the credit for his team's victory, if you will, in the sense that, like you said, if you go back and look at, he didn't actually have that much to do in this last match because we didn't test him that much. So, at this point, great story in regards to, the lore of the El Clamico, if you will. But at this point, at the same time, like he's kind of up and down in regards to his performances. I know that, excuse me, I'm sick. There were some Hartford fans I saw who were actually kind of questioning him at times and saying, like, this guy's a joke. He's not serious. Like, not all of them are actually a fan of him. So it'll be curious to see how the season goes on in regards to if he's able to continue that. I mean, the one thing he was very good at
Was talking smack.
He helped along with some of his other pals there in maybe some egregious time wasting.
I mean, there were complaints that he was kicking outside the box, retrieving illegal back passes. But yeah, let's talk about this time wasting, because I think that's the end note for this part of the match, because everyone that was there saw that something was very, very wrong when it came to what happened on the match. And that was Marlon Hairston, Colorado Rapids legend, going down with an injury that would cause some of the loudest, most angered just noises I've ever heard from the stadium. Like, it eclipsed what Siaha did last week. So walk fans through because you did some calculations, you ran some numbers. Did we watch 90 minutes of football, Jason?
Absolutely not. So I don't have time to go through the entire match. I was just like, let's go through a few big moments and kind of see what happens. So Hairston goes down at 70-36. He doesn't get off the pitch till 74:03. That's 3.5 minutes later.
We're gonna round up to 4 for funsies.
Yeah. He then, after faking injury, tries to run back on at 74:40. Also, at this point, Siaha has not even taken the free kick, on top of moving the ball 10 yards up, which everyone does, to be fair. But, like, hey, add insult to injury. Not only are we going to take 4 minutes to restart play, we're going to move that ball way up there. Siaha finally takes the kick at 75:06. And then 2 seconds later, they just let Hairston back on the pitch. No yellow for time wasting after magically recovering for after 4 minutes.
I thought, by the way, I thought the rule was, and for the refs that follow us, I don't want to go find it in IFAB, so please let me know. I thought that once a player goes down a second time, you got to put him in a stretcher just to waste enough time possible. Just put him in a stretcher, get him off because he went, remember, he got up, limped about halfway, and then sat back down. Put him in a stretcher, tie him down, and then keep the game going, and then take your time unbuckling him, and then let him back in the match when he's been goofing around. But he wasn't the only culprit. There was Siaha, and I forget the other player. Was it Hairston again?
Well, so really quickly though, that there's a word, but I'm gonna keep it PG. That's probably some of the most impressive tomfoolery I've seen in this league.
I deleted the other word out of the notes, so you didn't say a bad word.
I know not to say it, but soccer fans, you'll know the word I'm talking about. The fact that they got away with wasting almost 5 minutes of the time, amazing. And then in the 85th minute, both Siaha and Depiz go down at the same time. It wasn't for very long, but it was just still like this. The fact that they're getting away with this and the ref is just like, yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah, but the point is the injury time alone was over 6 minutes. And then when you think of all the other times that are added on, like that minimum 1 to 3 minutes that gets tacked on at the end of a match, none of that happens. And we get 5 minutes at the end of this game. Do you think that the ref was completely out of his element and he's like, I just need this game to end. It's going to go to penalties anyways. So let's just get out of here before someone starts, screaming at me that, they know where I live.
I don't know. Maybe he was rounding everything down. And then just was like, yeah, whatever. It's 5 minutes. You guys can go to penalties.
I was angry that McKay wouldn't answer that it's not good for the game. McKay, like you said, very political, didn't want to speak and step into the, it's fine if you don't want to comment on Hartford Athletic, but the ref should have gotten control of that situation. He should have taken care of things, and he should have at least then added the time. If you're going to allow it, add the time at the end. but he didn't. And we were stuck with some of the most infuriating moments that I've ever seen in any match, let alone, of course, it's in Oklahoma.
And to be fair, like we've already talked about, RIFC were I would not argue that RIFC were the better team on the night. So it's not like they somehow use this to get one over on us.
I agree.
But the fact that it's allowed to play like this is maybe fun for the sickos who are like, this is absolute cinema. But other people showing up and be like, oh, look at soccer. Of course, they're all on the ground. Oh, this is a stupid sport. 2-2, you could tie in this game. I'm like, you're adding more fuel to the idiot's fire at that point.
Absolutely.
So allowing stuff like that to happen without at least acknowledging that, okay, maybe he really is hurt. Cool. We're going to have 10 minutes of extra time now. If you're not giving yellow cards for simulation and things like that, where he immediately stands up and tries to run back on the field, it's like he was playing you. He was not. He was just wasting time.
It should make for an interesting conclusion to the derby a little later in August on the 23rd, as Rhode Island FC will head to Trinity Health Stadium.
The derby that never ends.
To the paved paradise and put up the parking lot.
And it goes on, my friends.
Let's get into the standings and let's get ahead for this preview of the matchup against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Back to the league, we have RIFC in 10th place, as they're not doing so great, but we've been here before, Jason, sitting on 17 points now on a 4-5-8 record with a -4 goal difference. Only 14 goals scored this season. I hate to break this to you, but that is actually second worst in the league now. Only team worse, Las Vegas Lights, and they've fired a coach and jettisoned half of their team to other Western Conference places. So
fire sale over there.
It is a fire. Like I hate to see that the Lights are just returning back to standard Lights. Like you saw this moment, and maybe that's the canary in the coal mine for this league of like, don't fall in love, because no matter how great, I mean, look at us right now. No matter how great you were at one point, the next season, you just never know.
Unless it's a few seasons in a row, don't believe anything.
That being said, like I said earlier, we are only 2 wins, I should say, out from being all the way up to 5th place. If matchups go our way, I saw in the Discord, it's a really good fact. I think Juliet was the one that called it out. But we have a really tough August stretch of matches here, but they are all Eastern Conference opponents, and we have to go through them. So because they're mostly all ahead of us, these are all pretty much 6-point swing matches. So I have a feeling we've talked at length about like, when do we start hitting the panic button? I think at the end of August, if we haven't locked in a position, it's going to be time to
those
panic.
Goalposts.
We're not moving the goalposts.
It was July. August. July's over now.
We are not moving.
Now it's like August.
But RFC does need to pick some points with only 13 matches left here in this regular season. How are the Riverhounds doing?
Yeah, and so the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, on the other hand, they're in 5th place now with 23 points after 17 matches played on a 6-5-6 record with 15 goals for and 15 goals against. I love that symmetry there. Currently unbeaten in the last 5 matches and on a 3-game draw streak. Technically, they lost in pens to Hearts of Pine, if we count it that way.
We're counting it as a draw, but it's a loss. We got it.
It's a draw in purposes of, the Jaeger Cup. And away to Indy 11 as well there. They play 4-4-1 in pretty much all the competitions since we last. Or no, sorry, the record is 4-4-1.
They just don't even play with an extra player.
When I wrote the notes down there, I didn't put a sentence in front of it, and I was just like, who plays a 4-4-1? That's not real.
Bob Lilly does. He doesn't even need the final defender.
I'm sick, guys. The Advil's wearing off. So 4-4-1 in all comps since we've last played. So they're doing very well. They've only lost 1 match there. Definitely in a good run of form after kind of a lackluster start. They were down below, lower in the leagues, hanging out there, while we were kind of, chilling up top, like 3rd, 4th, or whatever there. Their goals per match and goals against, also some more symmetry here, are both very low at 0.88. I mean, 15-4, 15 against makes sense there. Difficult to score against, but also very difficult for them to score. I mean, classic Bob Lilly, right?
I don't know how Pittsburgh has fans. Lily ball seems like the most depressing thing to go.
It's the most masochistic thing ever. It's just
you talk about symmetry. I have a fun fact for you at the end when we get into predictions. So I'm gonna bury that for a second. But did you know, by the way, that with the 15 goals that the 14 goals that RIFC has scored and the 15 goals that Pittsburgh has scored, the Charleston Battery have scored more than both of those teams combined with a comfortable lead at 38 goals already this season. And that's without
what's
Nick
his face
Marcanic
from
there.
the Rowdies? Has he scored like
Cal
more?
Jennings is in the league lead, but half of his goals have come from penalties, and they
Still
just have
counts.
talent spread all across the team. Juan David Torres is right behind him. JD Myers has like 8 goals for the season. So like they're just good. Hey, well done, Charleston. And plug for Holy City Sound Off, our Howlers Soccer Social buds who we did the podcast with last week. They were very much happy to brag about that, despite that we won that ECF trophy from them last season. Let's get into the head-to-head real fast and talk through what's kind of going on in that space.
Yeah. So our RFC have met Pittsburgh twice this year already. We had the 1-0 home loss, followed by a away trip, which was a Jägermeister Cup. But we actually saw RFC pick up their first points against the Bob Lilly side on top of their first goal ever scored against them. An overall record of 1-1-2. RFC really struggle against Bob Lilly's side. Like I said, out of those 4 matches, they've literally only scored 1 goal. So, and when we actually beat them in that Bob Lilly, away match there, we kind of channeled our own inner Bob Lilly. That was one of those games where it felt very much like.
I mean, Chico put that game on his back, and between acting, physicality.
Oh yeah,
he was playing a different
was
type
up
of
there.
football.
He was up there fighting all of the center backs.
He was playing gridiron.
Constantly.
Yeah,
yeah. So, good stuff there. Sometimes to beat the Bob Lilly, you must become the
Chico may have fallen down 29 times, but he didn't waste more than 30 seconds on the ground.
Oh yeah,
Marlon Hairston, I'm calling you out.
Yeah, he's not that type of guy. Despite the history, kind of putting an asterisk on that Jägermeister performance, neither of these teams really had a solid July performance, right? They're coming off a bunch of draws. Technically, that one is a loss. But Pittsburgh overall has been a bit steadier at the Highmark Stadium. So, 5-2, 5-2-1, on the road, 1-3-5. It's going to be kind of an interesting match here because we didn't, we've played there twice now. We got swatted 2-0 last year. They're pretty comfortable, and we somehow squeaked away with a 1-0 win earlier here.
In regular comp, not including the Jägermeister, we've never scored against them. Yeah. So it's an interesting facility.
So yeah, it's like, can Kano's men turn the tide here, pick up some much needed points as we head into the final third of the season, or is the field tilted against RAFC?
Good old field tilt. I saw someone write something about field tilt the other day. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, let's get into this Pittsburgh Riverhounds side. Since the end of May when we last saw them, the Riverhounds have had, like you said, a mixed but generally stable run in the championship regular season. They had a solid 2-0 win against Detroit City FC. Detroit falling off and falling fast. They purged their technical director. They are struggling mightily. They've made some pickups, but still struggling mightily. Like you said, their momentum was briefly halted by a 1-0 road loss to Indy 11. Where, this team always fails to kind of generate attack and chances, but they rebounded strong with a 2-1 victory over the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And, Tampa, again, on the backslide. So the Riverhounds beating the teams that they should, losing or keeping things interesting against teams that might be punching more towards their weight class right now. But then we get the New Mexico United game. And I'm starting to wonder, and I apologize to our friends at the United front, but I'm starting to wonder if New Mexico United is the real deal this year. Pittsburgh gets,
maybe our last game of the season might be good for us.
That's what it's going to come down to. But Pittsburgh gets a 1-0 win. It's a narrow 1-0 win, thanks to a late Robbie Mertz goal. But that was their only win for the month. Otherwise, they'd be winless. And we're talking by 2 days, right? Like if they hadn't gotten that win, they would have been in the exact same boat as Rhode Island FC. They get a 2-2 draw against Loudoun United. They get another scoreless stalemate against Detroit, and then they get a 1-1 draw against the Miami FC, which, by the way, Miami FC have the highest goal scorer in the league right now. So for all of you guys,
Bonfiglio or whatever,
all of you
Yeah.
guys sleeping on Miami, that is a dangerous thing right now. And that game was only salvaged by a late stoppage time equalizer from Charles All, his first goal of his professional career with the Riverhounds. So while these games have been competitive, like you said earlier, Bob Lilly doesn't give up much, but he doesn't go after much either in these matches. 3 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss since the last time we played him. And I'm not sold on them being anything other than a really frustrating team to play. Like you said, they're balanced with their results, they're balanced with their goals. They're mid-table, so they're balanced there too. We desperately would love to switch positions with them, and we possibly could with a couple of good results heading our way. A win would help us really kind of close the gap as fast as possible. But right now, given the fact of the teams they've gone through and what's ahead for each of these individual teams' schedules, and we should go back and compare like who's got the toughest schedules ahead for the rest of the season. We should do that show. Right now, I feel like Pittsburgh is firmly and they've solidified a contender spot for a playoff position. Definitely they're going to be away. I don't think they can breach into that final 4th position. But for what it matters, this team will most likely make the playoffs.
Absolutely. When we get into the ref assignments here, we have head ref Matt Thompson, assistant ref 1 Matthew Rodman, 2 Matts. Assistant ref 2, Eric Del Rosario Gondara, and we have Gary Gutierrez, 4th official.
Matt Thompson has previously overseen 2 matches for Rhode Island FC in his career so far. Last year's Eastern Conference final, a match away to Charleston, and then most recently the 2-0 loss away at Loudoun earlier this season. I didn't really see anything wrong in the Eastern Conference final, and the Loudoun game, if I remember right, we just were really bad, and I don't think anything. The Loudoun match that I remember was the bad PKs and the bad red cards with Jojea. I don't think anything really happened, and I haven't had the time to go back and evaluate it. So hopefully we'll get a ref that is solid and doesn't allow 25 minutes of time wasting, and we'll go from there. But
that's all we can hope for, right?
Let's get into the injury report. I know that's what everyone wants to hear. Grant Stoneman still nursing that lower body injury, should be back in the next week or 2, at least available. But you know that that Kano's not going to rush anything. Koke's the big question mark here. He should be back by now, based on the timelines the club has provided, based on the timelines he's talked about. He did say he'd be available in August, and this is always one of those tricky ones where technically this game will be in August on the 2nd. Does that mean here, or did we really mean mid-August? So we could see Koke, and we very much could not see Koke, and instead see Jackson Lee continue his duties. And then we've got Zach Harivo, still have him listed as questionable. We'll find out more tomorrow during training. But in reality, actually, no, we won't find training because they're match day -1 traveling. So we will find out if he's on the roster on game day. But there were videos of him training this week at full speed and doing small side. So I imagine he's probably good to go to be at that level. And then Frank Nodarse, who we reported with the hamstring injury, highly doubt that we'll see him take the pitch this weekend. As far as Pittsburgh Riverhounds, talked to a couple people on their side. They're 100% healthy, so that's fantastic. I'd love to be 100% healthy.
Good for them.
So let's talk about how this team lines up and what's going on the Rhode Island FC side of our predicted squad, guaranteed to be wrong.
Yeah, so until Koke Vegas shows up in net, we are continually just going to keep picking Jackson Lee. From there, we're like, we saw a 3 or a 5, whatever you want to call it, back line. Why not do it again? Like we said, guaranteed to be wrong.
Hey, if it scores goals, that's what we need right now. I would argue we need goals more than defensive lapses in judgment.
Absolutely. I'd rather see goals and, lose 3-2. At least I can be happy about something temporarily. Anyways, we're thinking a backline here of Rio Hope Gunn, Ame Mabika, and Karifa Yao, because we're not really 100% sure in regards to Nodarse. Like we mentioned there, he went down this last match. With a midfield there of Clay Holstead, Ugo Bacharach, Mark Ibarra, and Jojea Quizera, with Amos Shapiro Thompson there sitting behind JJ Williams and Noah Fusan. with Maxi, Chico, Zach, Joe, Aldair, Danny, and Will on the bench there.
So let's talk this through. I mean, it's a prediction guaranteed to be wrong. And this is one where we're trying to envision what coach will play. I think that because we've seen Rio play in a center back capacity a lot this season, weirdly, there's been that experiment where he's been out on the left side as a left center back. I think we'll do more of that. But then the argument is with the amount of midfielders that we can bring to the table, especially with a player like Maxi starting the game on the bench, is it almost more strategic to have Bacharach go? We know he can play a center back role. We've seen him drop in and support, despite the fact that Kano probably wants him in the 6. Is there a more likely scenario where we see him as a center back for this match?
It's possible. I mean, even when we saw him play center back, he was like center attacking center back. He was just like, what if I just went on a, crazy run up to the top and, pass it out wide or something? So in that regards, maybe one of the wide center backs, because you want your mid center back in like a 3 or 5 to kind of be like your rock.
Krifa Yao's never running up the pitch like that.
Unless you do something where they push up and they tuck in.
Even then, Krifa Yao's never running up the pitch like that.
Yeah, no, he's chilling back there, So it's possible. Like we said, guaranteed to be wrong. But we've been told that he is not a center back and he's some sort of 6. So
do you want Vincent Kompany, Hugo Bacharach, or do you want
like Rodri?
Yeah, which way do you want this? Listen, I think it could go either way. The real question though is how does Maxi get on this pitch? And then obviously we know Haribo is a Kano favorite. When he gets back to full strength, it's going to congest this midfield even more. And then Aldair seems like he's fallen out of favor now with like the Quizera on the right experiment is over. And Aldair now is an impact sub coming in to close down games or catch us up with crossing. Does that seem warranted? Aldair's been such a solid player all season.
Yeah, he is, but I almost wonder is he suffering because of like, are we shifting away from the 4-back line? Like, are we starting to give up with it? Because in a 4-2-3-1 that we were kind of playing before, put him as the left back, put Jojea as one of the kind of wide, midfielders. But he's kind of just a fullback to a certain extent. Or if he's not a fullback, then he's going to be replacing Jojea. At that point, you're not going to not play Jojea. So it's a conundrum.
It is a conundrum. For the Pittsburgh Riverhounds side of things, we've got them technically set up in a 5-4-1, but they like to morph into a 3-4-2-1 depending on the positioning on the pitch. You've got Eric Dick in goal, and then on that back 5, Perrin Barnes, Beto Yedrick, Sean Suber, Guilherme Vactor, and Luke Biasi. That midfield 4, Bradley Sample's going to be the change here. Last time around, we had Jickerson in there, but it'll be Sample with Jackson Walty, Daniel Griffin, and Robbie Mertz out on the left wing, and then Augie Williams, the lone striker, up front. For time purposes, we kind of covered these players already at length. We talked about the impact of Mertz this season, the native Pittsburgh kind of component to this. He's creating the dangerous chances. I do want to get into Vactor for a second, though. This is his first year as a Riverhounds player and his first year as a pro. He came on during the preseason, kind of like, and we're talking like very end of preseason. And then by April, just completely anchors himself to this team. He's been the quiet kind of engine that's made Bob Lilly look as good as he does this year. Highest rated player on FOTMOB right now. He comes in, secures his starting 11 spot. He's super physical. His defensive read on the matches are great. He doesn't lose a lot of duels. And notably, he got the clean sheet against Rhode Island in May after winning 3 tackles and 8 of those 11 duels. He's been in multiple instances where he's had clearances and blocked shots, key blocked shots, mind you, and he's been on the USL Team of the Week a couple times now. He is a force to be reckoned with, and he's kind of a chameleon because he can play in that center back spot, but then as the team moves and shifts, he can kind of fill in defensively as a fullback. Think of him as like a Rio Hope Gund. He's very versatile in that space, and he's made it hard for teams to break down, especially coming up that right flank. He's been just I hate to use the word anchor, but he's been an anchor on that back line. So it's not great to see, and he's definitely keeping this team very much in the mix when we talk about having one of the best defenses in the league. Currently, they're the third best defense in the league, but RIFC, they're the sixth best. So like we talk about how bad this team is in some columns, but also how fantastic they have been in others. Jason, let's get into the kind of storylines that we wanted to talk about for this backside of the match. And I want to ask this first question. Have we seen yet the best starting 11 for Rhode Island as we've gotten healthier? I don't want to get into the experiment of what the best 11 is. We can do that on like one of the Monday mailbags. We can both put up what we think is the best one. But have we seen it yet? Or does Kano still need to tinker, or does he still need to wait for some of his players to come back?
I don't think that we have. And like off the top of my head, do I know what it is right now? No. I have to sit down here and kind of workshop it out. I think this is like you said, this is the month where things need to get done. A starting 11 needs to be chosen pretty quickly here. There's not a lot of time left in the season. And at that point, that needs to be built upon whatever tactics you're going to stick with. Either you're going to switch back to some version of a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, or stick with your 4-2-3-1. Pick that. From there, you need to kind of pick who's the best, and not necessarily who are your best players, but who are your best suited to the tactics that you're going to employ.
Does that mean positionally as well?
Yeah, and at that point, you're going to unfortunately have to leave some talent on the bench. Right. And that there's no other way about it.
I mean, credit to Bob Lilly. His team has remained mostly unchanged now in this starting 11, with the exception of the Jägermeister matches where he's tinkered. The only player that kind of comes in and out is Jackson, as he's toyed with having a little bit more firepower on the front line. But otherwise, like, credit to him. Once he has his team, and as long as they stay healthy, it seems to be the pick. We need to see Kano, I agree, kind of start to land in that, like, ride or die. These are my 11 that are going to take me to glory or have me live in eternal shame. Want to talk quickly about RIFC's goal production. Like I said, second worst in the league now, only behind the Las Vegas Lights. With Hartford's win midweek, we're now like we had Hartford as that insulary, right? Like they were always between us and like talking about the bad optics. Now we are the bad optic. What does Kano have to do differently to improve this goal production? Is it more of that starting 11? Is it different forwards? What is it? Just wait for JJ to click? What do we do?
I think it kind of ties into what we were just talking about. I think with all the chop and change, the inconsistent 11s, I think it's difficult for this team to go out there and know exactly what their roles are and how they're going to help the team create chances. We know that our forwards have the ability to score goals. I mean, Chico can be a bit streaky. You know, if you feed JJ enough, I think he'll get it done. But if everything behind them is not working out because it's constantly a different guy behind you, you're then going to have to alter too. Like, well, you know, so-and-so likes to play balls over here. Like, I want to be here. Do I have to meet him halfway and move over here? But then next week I'm playing with someone else. It's that inconsistency.
Agreed. We talked earlier, this is one of the best defenses across both of these teams, but these are also two of the worst offenses. Right now, Rhode Island, they have the worst total at 23rd in the league when you talk about their overall production. Pittsburgh is 22nd, so that's second and third place. When you look at that, a great defense, a crappy offense. Eric Dick now 22 career shutouts with Pittsburgh. He's on track 7 this season. He's in second place. Probably will lead the league again as a contender for Golden Glove. RI this year only have 5 clean sheets, 4 of them Koke. Jackson Lee just cannot get a clean sheet to save his life. The only one he's gotten in non-regular play was, ironically, the Jägermeister Cup against Pittsburgh. Do we even see a goal this match? Or is this a 0-0? Like, let's just be honest.
It feels like it has 0-0 written all over it. Outside of that, maybe 1. I'd say no more than 2.
I will say Augie Williams is on the hunt for his 80th career USL Championship goal. After scoring against Loudoun, he's now tied for 4th place in the league all time with Haji Berry, and he's only 2 behind Louisville's legendary Cameron Lancaster at 81. So he's itching to try to kind of continue to add to his legacy here in the championship. So then the final question, you brought this stat up once and I hate it now and I can't unsee it, but you talked about how poorly we perform against teams when we have faced them in a midweek matchup. Pittsburgh is technically coming off of a midweek game. They played on Tuesday this week. Talk me through it. Like, does that add significance? Does this help or hurt us? What's the deal?
I mean, it only further perpetuates that stat if we don't get a result. But at this point, I forgot exactly what the stats were, but we just haven't ever beat a team who's come off a midweek game. We always think that, it's gonna help us out. No. If anything, they're more ready to face us. So we've gotten some draws. So a draw is possible.
We've just never beaten them.
We just haven't picked up a win against a team.
Maybe this is the time, a 1-0 instead of a 0-0. And then finally, how does RIFC take any points on the road here? I look at this as, first and foremost, goal production needs to come online. It feels like it's been on life support for far too long. Now it feels like maybe we're seeing something. Maybe we're turning the corner, but it can't come at the expense of the defense. I still feel like whoever scores first is if there's a goal scorer, that's most likely going to be the outcome of this match. And I feel personally that there's probably going to be, if any kind of consequence here from an impact standpoint, it comes from the subs. We think Chico is going to ride Pine to begin this. We also think that Jackson will also ride Pine. He's been on fire in the Jaeger Cup. So has Chico. I imagine that we saw what Chico did on the last trip up. I imagine that one of these two players may kind of start to unlock the defense and find a way to get a goal for their respective teams later in the match.
What you're saying is 1-1. Each of them score.
Possibly. I mean, Chico didn't score in the last match. He opened the firing lane for Jojea to get on the score sheet. But either way, it's time now to start dialing in this team. August has to be this run of getting the simple things right, looking better in shape, locking down that starting 11. And then by the time we get into September, that's like, if we don't hit that trajectory, it very well may be a very sad and unwinded season in terms of regular play where we put all of our chips in the Jägermeister Cup. What say you for this performance? How does Rhode Island get points, or do they not get points here?
I think what we saw earlier when they won in the Jägermeister Cup, I think we got to give them a little bit of taste of their own medicine. I think we need to focus on being solid defensively. And, that there's a better word I could use, but it's PG. But we need to be jerks in a sense of, you don't have to roll around and die, but take those fouls, be physical, go down, like slow the game down when you have the opportunity. Try and transition, but don't commit too many men's forward to leave yourself vulnerable at the back.
Agreed. I still think this game has 0-0 written all over it. I'm not ready to believe in them until I see it, and I don't believe in anything other than Bob Lilly is going to make this match unbearable. I don't even think I'm going to watch it. I think I'm going to go out and enjoy my life for this weekend with the team away. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I just don't have faith. And I'm
still watching. I might not watch it live. Might enjoy one of the last few weeks of summer we have, because it might be the worst. I mean, I'm just based upon what I'm saying, I don't necessarily view this as a win either. I think this is a draw. And perfectly in that regards, Pittsburgh's record would then be 6-6-6. So Bob Lilly is the devil confirmed.
This is a hellish team, no doubt. Get us out of here and then stick around. We do have that special treat after Jason reads us out. But if you are going to the watch party, it will be at the Guild. The match is at 7 p.m. this Saturday. And is it at 7? I didn't even check the stats. It feels like I'm going to say 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
And if not, well, then you missed the game, but go have a good beer at the Guild. They've got so many delicious flavors. And go spend time with Defiant 1636 and other fans. Jason, what's the final word? And get us out of here.
All right, y'all. Make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, and that's including RIFC at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RIFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Acre, and there's always that website, raisingacrepodcast.com. Anchors up, y'all.
Anchors up, and now here is your AST moment of Zen.
such a great like duet though. In a lot of
Yeah.
ways, you know.
So is this way? Do you want to do it that way, or do you want me to stop in here somewhere?
I think that is
Doing it
great
together
together.
then?
Yeah. Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. Ela menina que vem que passa, num doce balanço a caminho do mar. Moço do corpo dourado de sol e Ipanema, o seu balançado é mais que um poema. Coisa mais linda que eu vi passar. Ah, porque tu tá sozinho. Ah, porque tu tá triste. A beleza que existe, a beleza que nossa minha, que também passa sozinha. Ah, se ela soubesse quando ela passa, o mundo sorrindo se enche de graça, fica mais linda por causa do amor.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. When she walks, she's like a samba that swings so cool and sways so gently, that when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. Oh, but he watches so sadly. How can he tell her he loves her? Yes, he would give his heart gladly, but each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at him. Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, she smiles, but she doesn't see. Oh, but he sees her so sadly. How can he tell her he loves her? Yes, he would give his heart gladly, but each day no, she doesn't see. She just doesn't see. No, she doesn't see.
Nice.
Okay, that was
Got it good enough.